Welcome back to another episode of Fed Up with Me, the eternal miserable one. Fed Up guys, joining me today is Vaughn from the US Death Grind band Reap. How's it going today, man?
It's going good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome, man. Been looking forward to getting into this. So, something I like to start off with bands is looking at the artwork, and in particular in this one because you've got the well-renowned artist Tony. I'm going to butcher his surname here when I try to pronounce it. Can you say it so I can hear how it's pronounced?
I mean, I've met him and I've never
Yeah,
actually asked him how it's pronounced. I always say Cole or Keel,
Keel.
depending on my mood of the day. But I'm
Yeah,
I'm sure I'm sure it's one of those two.
yeah. Keels. Apologies to Tony. I'm an idiot, so that's a disclaimer I'm going with, man. Um, but yeah, I had to start with this in particular, and what really grabs me about it as well is it's got that classic grindcore, crustpunk, DB, even hardcore and power violence feel with just with the artwork alone because it's like very post apoc. You could see what you could class as like a democrat, I guess, aka politician, preacher of hate, got all the like the money and greed, everything there. So
Right.
did he do that himself? Was that his interpretation, or did you work with him to get that idea to life?
So it just happened by chance.
Whoa.
He made this art himself and posted it during the start of COVID,
Wow.
and this band kind of formed during COVID. And it was just everything that we were looking for. And since we started during the COVID time, we were gonna plan on calling the album "Born from Plague," which I
Yeah.
felt kind of fit. And Tony had posted this, and like I said, I've known him for a long time. And when I saw it, I was like, "Dude, this is absolutely right up our alley and perfect
Yeah.
for what
Yeah.
we're looking for." And you're right; it does fit that grindcore element of the visuals.
Yeah.
Anything with a gas mask, I'm a sucker for.
Hey, me too. Me too.
So I mean, it just was perfect. It was dark, and I mean, it just the overall feel and darkness to it just worked perfect for what we were going for.
You know what else I like about it as well, man, is you've got like the symbols like of the Corona plague, and then like a puppet master with the strings
Right.
above, the guy who's like the sinister scientist dude, I guess, with the gas mask, and then this is what I find interesting. Below, you've got a keyhole, which could be like the Earth, and then you see like the Earth separate of that, as if, yeah, this has been keeping everybody like in a prison,
Right.
a locked state. So I thought it was a very kind of smart piece of social commentary within that
Absolutely.
art. I thought, man, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, it was
yeah,
it was it's nice. It's like taking it back to the old days of you can look at something a bunch of different times and you keep on seeing different things in it. It's not like your typical, you know, gore grind cover or gore
yeah,
cover or whatever. It's what you see is what you get. You're going to keep on seeing things in this and keep on interpreting things how you want to. And that's what I miss from the old days of, being a kid and looking at records, just
yeah.
sitting there in my room looking at records over and all day long.
But it's like with movies, isn't it, and games, and you get this a bit still in indie film and the indie gaming companies where they'll have the really dope artwork that really kind of goes with that heart, especially in indie horror, action
Right.
stuff like that. But as a whole now, I feel that art sometimes is a little bit lost, and I feel it's just as important because if you think back to kind of those times where you saw looking at even going way back to the old days of Hollywood, and you see like those movie posters
Oh,
and
yeah.
just the way they're doing it. I mean, that was like selling the movie in the
Right.
sense is like, oh man, yeah, what's that? I've got to see this. Um, and I know, yeah, we've got all the trailers and stuff now, but I feel I'm going on a rant here, but the trailers sometimes pretty much give you the whole movie before you've even got there,
Right.
uh, which kind of sucks. So, I was reading as well a bit about the background, some of the other bands that you're all from, bands I've played on my former radio shows back in the day. I know very well. We had Necrotic Disgorgement on the show a few weeks ago as well,
Nice.
which was a man that was a hilarious one as well, especially when we were talking about the song Masturbated to Death. None of us could keep a straight face.
Yeah.
We were all just like, I was like, so how did you come up with a title for But yeah, that was an interesting story in itself. So what I'm wondering as well, before we do a deep dive into the songs, this is a really nice blend of death metal and grindcore. So was this something? I know it was born during COVID, but was this music that you always wanted to make as well outside of your other bands, just to do something a little bit different?
This was purely a in the moment kind of thing. Jimmy from Necrotic and I talked pretty much um, every morning. We'd be driving to work, and he lives a couple states away from me. He lives in Ohio. I live in Illinois, and we'd get up super early and we'd just shoot the shit on the way to work.
Yeah.
And then one day we were just kind of talking and said, "Hey, man." We were kind of frustrated about some things going on, obviously Corona stuff. And it was just, everything changed daily with whatever bullshit they were trying to feed you. And then there was some things going on here that we were just, kind of venting and ranting about. And I don't know which one of us, said, "Hey, let's start a little project." But I had maybe a couple of different little riffs here and there because I'm always writing something. So I had some little things that I had held back, and they didn't really fit what I was doing with Lividity at the time, or the band that I was working on, Between the Killings. So I just kind of stockpiled those little ideas and put them in other little folders so I could go back to them later. And I said, "Hey, man, I've got some stuff that might work." And he was like, "I'd love to do something." So we just kind of had this mindset of, we're going to do something that's not super, overly technical, not super involved. We're going to get in, get out with it. It's going to be, we kind of set limits of, we don't want anything to be over a minute and a half long.
Mm.
We're gonna make it good and old school and offensive and like metal used to be.
Yeah.
Really, really pulling from what we love from like SOD.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, where you could poke fun at things, and
Yeah.
that was the whole mindset. So, and we came up with this idea, and we probably had everything written in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
So yeah, I would just go down. I've got a basement little studio area.
Yeah.
And I would just go down there and I'd hammer out riffs, and I'd send him little snippets. And he's like, "Man, I like it," or "No, maybe not that." And he'd give me ideas. And then I would basically, since I'm getting old, I don't remember things like I used to. I would just videotape little segments of the songs, and that way I could have them.
Yeah.
And then we just went in the studio and I just recorded everything to a click track.
Wow.
And put them all down.
That's pretty good that you went back and forth. You've got that input going with each other as well. And
yep.
Isn't it that one thing I always say to people, I feel like with extreme metal and punk hardcore as well, and it should be like this as well, whether everyone agrees with the opinions in the songs or not, it doesn't matter. And I feel it's that perfect way of venting out all that frustration, those feelings, doing it in a healthy way. I mean, hardcore in general has helped me through some very difficult times.
Right.
And if you look at, Brutal Death, even with Lividity, I always say people, you've got to look at the humor as well. It's like over-exaggerated comedy as well, and you just have to laugh, and then it goes with the music, and it's about, having that fun as well, that escapism. And I feel that's sometimes lost on people. They forget that. They'll be like, "Oh, yeah," and I'm like, look, it's really over-the-top theater. It's a bit of fun. It's comedy. Think of, when you see like those comedians as well on stage, which we could do a whole other show on now, how a lot of them have sadly been trying to get cancelled or censored, and they go into shows, you can't say this is a joke, you can't do this, and it's like, man. So I feel with this album, it's that perfect blistering piece of rage. It's got all that nice the frustration coming out in a good way. Everything that you'd want from a grindcore and death grind album, very raw, direct to the point, literally hits you in the face. So that's a perfect segue to get into chatting about the first two songs, Right to Hit and Burst. I just wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind those two tracks.
So we didn't really do anything as far as, like I said, we threw all these things together, and then we had I would write some lyrics. I wrote probably the majority of the lyrics. Jimmy wrote some, or he would fill in some things where maybe I had some gaps. but it was more about, you know, we had the songs written. They didn't necessarily go with any certain lyrics or anything. We kind of figured all that out later, but we had the lyrics before we went into the studio, so we kind of had ideas. Right to Hate is just basically, I mean, it's kind of basically what it says is I can love what I want, I can hate what I want.
Yeah.
You can hate what you want, and I don't care. You know, it's all about go live your life and let me live my life. You know, I don't really give a shit what you have to say necessarily about anything, and you don't need to give a shit about what I have to say about anything. But if I want to hate something, who are you to tell me I can't?
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. Not that I'm this just completely full of hate person. I mean, I have things that make me happy, obviously, you know, but I mean, it's, you know, it's that SOD style tongue in cheek of, you know, I can say what I'm saying and bring home a message and make it somewhat funny. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not this just completely enraged person, but I do have, I have feelings and ideas, and I am a human, and I don't have to like everything that you have packaged in a box.
Yeah.
Just because you tell me one thing doesn't mean I have to agree with it. So, Burst is probably, there was a lot of things going on during that time over here. We had a bunch of riots going on, and we had, you know, just everything was just crazy. I mean, you had everything from riots to the virus to, I mean, just, I had a lot of personal things going on as well. So I was going through a divorce. So there was just a lot of things going on, and it was just like every single day something else would just kind of hit me, and I was like, I'm getting to that level to where it's like I'm way up here and I'm ready to just let it all explode and let it all out. And that's basically what that one's about.
Yeah, and you've got a nice hardcore breakdown at the end on that song as well, which just made me thought, man, this would be perfect for a circle pit. Fantastic. And I think, as I was saying a little bit earlier when we started the conversation, I feel we've kind of lost that middle ground in society at the moment. It's like, you know, if you don't like a movie, and I said to her, I think it was a Death Doom band. Was it a Death Doom band, or was it the band before? It was someone, I think it was a Death Doom band I had on one of the early shows, and I said, if I don't like a movie, I don't like it. It's probably because I think it's a piece of SHIT or something didn't grab me in some way. It's as simple as that. There's nothing to do with anything else or anything. And sometimes, you know, we're seeing like, oh, well, this person didn't like this movie because it's full of women. I'm like, no, maybe it's just because it wasn't very good. It's as simple as that. If it were full of men, and a turd is still a turd, regardless of whether it's full of men, full of women, whatever. And I feel like that's, you know, she was saying, like, right to like something, right to dislike something. That's lost, and we've got like this fanaticism. It's even in wrestling, man. People go in everything now. People going absolutely crazy at each other, going, you know. I'm like, man, what happened to just enjoying it? And if you don't like something, that's fine. It's okay to disagree or not like the same thing, man. It's as cliche. I'm going to sound really cliche, the old saying, man. But if we all like the same thing, it'd be so dumb, and creativity would just be there'd be nothing. I mean,
absolutely.
And I feel we're getting. I think was it on. This might have been on Joe Rogan, I feel, where he was mentioning, I think, that we might see a comedian at some time in the future who just like pushes the boundaries on everything, gets to that point where I've just, right, that's it, I've had enough. Let's just absolutely unload on everything, because I feel, like I said, we've lost a bit of that balance. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked on a rant. We'll turn it back onto your music. Evolve Degrade. This one, man, I noticed. It talks about like thinking for yourself, the riffage. There's a good bit of like windmilling parts as well, some classic death metal vox. So I thought this was a really nice one. Good combination of elements.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, nothing was overly thought out. I mean, it was just what is a good riff, and you know, are we going to throw a good little breakdown in there? Just something that's going to make us, at the end of the day. At the end of the day, as a musician, I've always told myself it has to be for me first, right?
Yeah.
So if I can sit there and I can write something that's going to make me bob my head to it, then cool. Hopefully somebody else is going to bob their head to it and they're going to like it as well. But in the beginning, it's for me and the guys that I'm creating with. If other people like it, then it's a win-win, you know. But it's, you know, that was the whole thing with this idea was let's go in there and just write cool stuff that we like, that is, you know, like I said, short and to the point, and we can get out of there. And it was, if we've got some heads going with it, then that's what we're here to accomplish.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be got to be for yourself first. Have that passion and love, and then hopefully everyone else feels it. Because nothing worse if seeing a band who are bored with what they're doing, right, as well. It's like, it reminds me of like those you know, when you see those session guitarists on daytime TV shows, and you can tell it's just the job again through. And they're like, yep, it's the background. Yep. Like, you can tell, yeah, this is just the day job. Bored out my mind. My real band is, you know, this evening or whatever. It's always made me giggle. The next one is well. The next one, Erase. I can hear the hardcore in this as well, and it says as well, all this rage every day. This was another nice, furious one, quite an enjoyable one. That's that's what I liked with this whole album, actually, as you were saying, is simply, you know, direct, get it out there. It's literally just feels, get in there, mosh like crazy, or get in the pit, you know, enjoy yourself. Right. So again, was this another one with the race? Just simply get in there fast and boom, hit them.
Absolutely, yeah. Just get in there and let out your emotions, and I mean, just take it back to what it used to be, and you can just be in a room, and you know, the old days of you know, metal, and nobody's trying to do anything too crazy or fancy, and we're just, if you can start a good little pit, I mean, like I said, they're real short songs. It's going to be a short pit, but I mean, that's fine. Yeah. We're all getting older, so I can't do slam dancing like I used to anyway. So
yeah, give them short, fast bursts, exactly. Brazilian jiu-jitsu, patience, and then hit them at the right moments.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now my mind's evaporated. There was something you said I was going to follow on with that. Oh well, we'll come back. That happens a lot. It's so frustrating as well, man. Blue over black. Now, I could be way off with this. Is this actually? I'll just ask you. So, what's the kind of message behind the lyrics on this one? I did have some ideas, but I don't know if I'm completely on point with them. So, I think it's best that I just ask you.
So, I probably won't divulge into everything.
Yeah,
but it's kind of a personal thing for me. So it's like I said, there was a bunch of riots going on. We all know that, you know, there's the George Floyd, and then there's this big, huge Black Lives Matter movement. I personally am not a fan of the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it's, to me, organizations like that are spreading more hate and racism than organizations that aren't like that, I guess, is to me, they're just a racist, hateful organization. And I don't follow what they preach, and I'm not into what they preach. And all those riots were just hate-filled bullshit. And you're sitting here watching, and it happened in my community. You know, I watch these riots affect our community, and you're just like, what is wrong with you people? That this something horrible has happened, and we are going to label it as whatever, and we're going to use that in our best interest to go loot and riot and hurt other people. And what are we gaining from that? So for me, it just doesn't mix right. It's all a bullshit thing to me. It's perfectly fine, and me, I'm a black guy as well. I'm biracial. I've grown up on both sides of the fence. I've got, you know, a black parent and a white parent, so I've always been kind of split down the middle. I was always this kind of oddball kid. You know, I'm this technically black kid who was big into heavy metal growing up and skateboarding, and I didn't fit the norm, right? So I was ostracized by the blacks completely, but I was, you know, I was fine with my white friends or whatever. Now I do have black friends, and that's fine. They're fine with me, whatever. I'm not saying, you know,
Yeah.
I'm anti whatever, but it just, from my perspective, I just don't see that we're doing anything good. So it's okay for all these black organizations to be black organizations, but the minute that if you tried to start a white organization, you're going to be an immediate racist. But you know, if we do something that's all black and we don't let whites in or anything else, that's perfectly supposed to be fine with society. But nobody's willing to stand up to that and say, no, that's not right. You're pushing that envelope of racism yourself, even though you're trying to say that you're not. It's just so that's really it's there's a little bit more to it that I can't get
Yeah,
into.
respect that.
I can't get delve into just for personal reasons. But that's the gist of it, and I just think it's all a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I had that impression. I thought, I wondered if this is to do with the various protest movements. The worrying thing is, regardless of where anyone stands, either they agree or disagree, is it's concerning that the extremes seem to be happening here, where we're kind of losing the middle ground, where you're losing that dialogue, where people won't talk to each other, communicate. Like I said, when I was on about things in popular entertainment with wrestling, but it's like, if you disagree with me, that's it. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to try and find a middle ground. I am just going to scream and shout, or threaten you with violence, whatever. I mean, it's him here, and when you see it on TV, and there's been notable stories where there's been poor innocent people who've either been trying to get home from work or whatever. There was one guy who had a skinhead, and he was wrongly tagged as a racist skinhead, and the dude was on his way home from work, and he got confronted, surrounded, and and you're just like, man, where is this heading? It's quite I mean, God, you could do a depressive black metal album about it, actually, if you sit down like, where's this heading? But
we can't call it black metal.
You couldn't do that because it's racist. Yeah, you're right.
Black Lives Metal.
But you said the same. Like, I co-host another channel outside of this called Planet X Films, and the guys that run that used to be underground hip hop MCs. They worked with Hellraiser and all those cats from Wu-Tang, and Mac. He's from New York. He's Puerto Rican, and I think quarter Taino as well. Okay. And he's said very similar things to what you said as well. And look, the events obviously were very tragic, and look, any racism is done, whatever it is. The same I feel with gender equality. Yeah, that is great, but you don't behave like the very thing you're against, essentially being a misandrist and hitting on all men. Right. I just feel like this is the wrong way of going about it. And as you were saying, sadly, what happens in a lot of these riots when they happen in protests is the actual community with the regular people, they get caught up in the middle, or their businesses are smashed and destroyed. I'm like, why are you attacking your own community? What good is that going to do when that's someone who's just trying to get by, and you're going to then attack them? This isn't going to generate love and support for that movement. It's going to get it away from it. And then what they don't realize is the real racists out there, it's giving them the ammunition. It's fueling that hate. So you're in this cycle, and you're just like, man, where is this going? So regardless of whether anyone agrees or disagrees here, they've got to see that there's a middle ground that's disappearing, where people aren't going to talk at all. And it's like the politicians haven't exactly been demonstrating the best examples of how to go about this either. It's like a theatre man. So we'll move on to the next song, because I've probably just depressed everybody there as well. I'll be like, yeah, we know the world sucks. We came here to listen about the music, man. So yeah, get back on it. Disrespect equals disrespect. A very short one, 28 seconds, really gets in there. And what I like with this is this man. This reminds me, I think, of how many people feel some days, where you're just so oh, you just get so angry and frustrated with everything, and it's just like, yeah, F you, F me, F you, like F everything, everything you got, and it just encapsulated that in the song as well. So it did make me giggle, this one as well. I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah, I mean it's very simple. I mean it's really 4 words and the whole thing just said over and over, right?
Yeah,
And that's the whole mindset. It's you're walking down the street someday, you're driving your car and somebody doesn't like how you drive and they're like, fuck you, well, fuck
yeah,
me, fuck you. You know, it's like and it's just I'm fine with you. We're at the same level, right? You and I are at the same level until you do something that takes us past that and you disrespect me in some way.
yeah,
Well, if you're going to be disrespectful to me and all I'm trying to do is be, disrespect or be respectful to you,
yeah,
then you don't need my respect either. So, I mean, I'm a pretty laid back, respectable guy, I think. Um, so if you're just going to throw out bullshit, then I'm going to catch it and I'm going to throw it back out to you. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
basically all that
exactly.
one's about.
Yeah, like for like.
I feel like you really grasped on to what the album's about because
Yeah,
you're like getting it.
yeah, there's a lot of relatable things in there, and a lot of conversations I've had, like I said, with my friend Mark Ross, who I used to go as VX7's Assassin Underground Hip Hop, and now I co-host movie reviews with them, but they've moved more into the independent film scene. But a lot of similar conversations. I mean, a positive now, and this doesn't get talked about. If you look at where hip hop and metal and punk now, there's all around the world. There's people of all colors in there now, numerous. It's not
Yeah,
just one or two anymore. There's so many, and that's a positive, which I feel the media sometimes forgets about. Says, oh, this is majority, say white music, black music, or whatever. I'm saying, no, those days are gone now. All people care about is the music. If anybody's any good and they enjoy it, and that's the way it should be. It doesn't matter
exactly.
what anybody looks like. Yeah, the same with even wearing metal clothes or punk clothes. As like, you don't have to look the most metal dude or punk whatever. You just wear whatever you want to wear. It doesn't matter. It's about the
Right.
music, you know.
Exactly.
Um, this well, now this one, this isn't the one that I am looking forward to talking about, but it's one of them, I guess. Snowflake.
Oh,
Do you think the Snowflakes will have this on the Christmas wish list at number
yeah,
one?
probably not. Probably not. If well, the problem is the snowflakes don't realize they're the snowflakes and they think they're not the snowflakes.
Yeah.
So maybe who knows? We might be able to trick them.
Yeah. Force them to listen to it while they're having their dinner.
Exactly.
But this again, this is what was like I was saying earlier, that I feel with extreme metal and punk hardcore, that it's often can be quite a humorous commentary on both history and the social standing with things. And this was one of those songs. Yeah, it's got the aggression, it's got the ferocity that goes with Death Grind, but it's got that smart comedy element as well, with talking about how, you could be okay. Here's a little hint for one of the songs I'm looking forward to talking about. It's like they could be in a room for 10 seconds, Von, and then all of a sudden they're offended. No one is near them at all. They're completely by themselves, no TV on them, absolutely nothing. And it's just like, oh, I'm so mad because the
Right.
oxygen levels changed. Ah!
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, there's people nowadays. You could literally give them $1 million cash, and they would bitch about the color of green it is. And
yeah,
it's like you just can't please anybody anymore. It's amazing.
yeah,
We're so expectant of everything. We're so, I'm owed everything just because I was born,
yeah,
no, you got to work for stuff still.
yeah,
And that's what people don't get. You have to actually go out and put out some effort. You have to
yeah.
go do the work. And everybody just wants everything handed to them.
Yeah. I see it sometimes even in fitness and training, where people come in and say they do the weights and are expecting to get ripped just in two
Oh yeah.
sessions. I'm like,
Right.
dude, it's not going to happen like that. You've got to get a program. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to stick it. And it takes time, a long time. And you might think, oh, well, I haven't put that much on, but you will build in your strength. You're building your fitness. That's still a positive. Or say someone comes into MMA or Nogi grappling or Muay Thai, for example, and I've seen this happen through personal experiences, and they'll have 2 or 3 lessons and then they go out there and they think like the world's best fighter. Yeah, I'm well trained. Or the other, as you were saying, with people expecting everything. When am I going to get to this level? And I'm like, takes such a long time, especially in the more functional styles than the traditional ones, because it's more on when you are ready, not so much on the money making aspect. I'm not saying there isn't schools out there like that. So yeah, that's one, as we were saying with the born from plague you mentioned earlier. That is one of the plagues I feel on society, where people expect everything just given to them, and it doesn't work like that. So moving on to this is an amusing one. 2 seconds long. Reminds me of that classic Napalm Death song, which they play perfectly live as well for those 2 seconds. Yeah. It's hilarious. So, it's called FY2. So, what's the story behind this one, man?
That one was, because that one follows Snowflake, I believe, correct?
Yeah, it does.
So it's like, because it's like, fuck you, I'm fucking offended, and the whole Snowflake thing. Well, that was just a follow-up to it, and fuck you too. That's basically all it is. It's just, fuck everybody. So
yeah. Just to put this out there for folks who are either watching now or later wondering why I keep muting out and coughing. If you've seen the last couple of episodes, I've still got flu. I'm a lot better than I was, folks, but sometimes my pipes are really irritating me, so I have to mute out. And it looks like I'm momentarily possessed. So don't worry, I'm not freaking Von out on purpose. He said, like, what's this limey doing? Anyway, I'm wondering actually if the next one is a bit of a follow-on as well, because it is called FUKAWF. This was actually one of my faves on the album, because it definitely leaned to that raw punk hardcore style of grind. I could hear that shining through the music. I thought, man, and like, what's the Napalm Death ones? It's Suffer the Children, kind of that vibe as well.
Yeah.
So I thought this was really nice. So is this a follow-on from
that's a massive compliment, dude. Thanks.
Oh, well,
man. I'm sorry, what were you asking?
We both got lost there. It's all right. You're fine, man. I'll lose myself in my verbal diarrhea. Don't worry. I just wondered if this was a follow-on from the previous two, with it, with having FU at the start, and FUKAWF.
So that was just a play on how can we say fuck off and spell it. so that's all it is. It's just I just spelled fuck off different than typical.
Yeah. It's me thinking this must stand for something.
No, it's not that deep, bro. I told you.
I'm gonna have to mute a moment to throw up, but tell you, man, I could do a cough core band at the moment. Nice. Just cough up a lung on stage or something. But man, this is, like I was saying, this is what I like as well with the album, because it still has that comedy element in there, that humor as well, so it makes you giggle. And now hearing that, now looking at the obvious, a different way of it, I now see I'm like, you should have paid more close attention there. But guys, oh well.
If you can't figure it out all the way, just dumb it down. Just don't think about it too much, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it for sure, definitely. The next one, effing feet. I think you curse more on this album than I do, which is saying something, man. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it's, but man, a good little swear fest every now and then is good for the health, man.
Of course.
Yeah. How many swear jars did you explode through this album? You must have gone through a few.
Yeah, there's no shortage of F-bombs, and that's pretty much it. We pretty much keep it at that. I mean, maybe bullshit once or twice, but there's F-bombs galore. So, and that was harkening back to the SOD thing. So when I was a kid, I grew up in the 80s, right? I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s. My brothers were listening to. I had two older brothers. One was deep into thrash metal, and one was deep into like the hardcore scene. So one day I'm walking by their rooms and they're like 7 and 5 years older than me, and I hear SOD, and so this is like 86 ish.
Yeah.
And I was just in love with it, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? This is the most wonderful thing I've ever heard. And it was just, so that was actually the first vinyl that I bought. I was like 9 or 10, maybe a little older, 10 or 11. And I snuck to the music shop. My parents would take us to the mall or whatever, and I'd get my little allowance or whatever, and I'd go, and I found it. Like, I was like, oh my God, I found it. But it was on vinyl. And I was like, how am I going to get this thing home? Because the minute they see it, I was young, but I was smart enough to know that it wasn't anything that they were going to go for. So it was just, you know, that was my, I mean, there was other metal bands I was listening to at that age, but that was the one for me that just, and it was, you know, you're 10 years old and every song's got the F-bomb in it or whatever, and you're just like, oh, you know, it's just this taboo thing or whatever. And but it was hilarious to me even at that time. It was, musically, it was just phenomenal. That's my favorite metal album of all time, is Speak English or Die. And I mean, it's nothing really more than what we just did with this project, right? It's not overly thought out. It's very quick and to the point. And I'll take that over any Anthrax album, and I like Anthrax a lot too. But I mean, it's just a great album, and it was, a lot of this mindset is, let's throw it back to the SOD days and the early days, and that's what we were doing. So yeah, you're gonna get a lot of F-bombs and just a lot of comical, just silly shit that you know, we don't mean, you know, kill yourself, but you know, fuck you, kill yourself, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's that rawness and the like over exaggerated, like as I was saying, the comedy and the fun in there as well. And sometimes with music and movies as well, what works is something just simple and direct. Good story, bit of good entertainment, good action scenes used in the right way, and you come out feeling and entertained, rather than sometimes where, I'm not saying I don't like anything where, you know, you have to think either, but feel when they go too overly complex, then they've gone too smart for their own good, and then it becomes an absolute bore fest.
Right.
And it can be 3 hours of pain as well. It's like that.
Right.
Oh man. I was reading I'm hoping to go and see it this week, the Napoleon movie, and I was reading an interview with Ridley Scott, and they were asking him about like the historical accuracy of the movie and saying, right, you've left out a lot of battles and why so, and he said I had to go for a balance because it's still a long movie. It's like 2 hours 40 minutes. He said if I put every battle in there, you could be like 3 or 4 hours, and then people's butts are gonna hurt. And I'm like, yeah, you've got to. So I'm hoping it looks pretty sick actually. So
I think my dad went and saw that yesterday or 2 days ago or something. So yeah, he's looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, that one, and then there's a good action movie due out as well. I think it's called Violent Night, which I think drops maybe the week or so after, which I forget who's in it, but that looks pretty tight as well. So that's one I definitely want to catch. Yeah, I'll well, but we're going to review it on the other channel, so should be pretty sick stuff. Anyway, back to your music again. Despicable. The next one which follows, is this like what we were saying earlier? Is this a song expressing that rage at despicable behavior within society?
Absolutely. It's that whole, you know, it's that event. We needed to come together instead of destroying what we do have. Let's figure out how, as a community, because at the end of the day, and that's why I'm not a fan of to unfortunately go back to that Black Lives Matter thing. That's why I'm not a fan of that whole movement, because whether it was you know, someone of your pigment and skin color died of that moment, it's still as bad as the person that did die, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's why Black life doesn't matter over a brown life, over a yellow life, over a white life, over whatever life. The minute that we can stop calling everything colors, then we can start focusing on our society and working together. Maybe it's, I don't know, I've been here almost 50 years, and maybe I'm people think that that's not a realistic view of things, but that's how I've always tried to look at things. I mean, I've been very deeply enveloped in the metal world for the last 35 years, playing in bands and playing predominantly white areas, and so whatever. But I don't look at it that way, and we have to start taking that out of everything, right? To get past it. Things happened that were horrible. Okay, cool. None of that affected us currently living today, right? My dad can go tell you stories. He's 73 years old that he had to deal with, but nothing even to the level of what we had to deal with as far as slavery or anything like that. So I'm tired of hearing about blacks are owed this or blacks are owed that because something that happened 200 years ago. Move on with your life. Go work for yourself. We're all capable of getting up every day and going and doing something and not getting a handout.
Yeah.
Go work for yourself and appreciate what you're going to get out of life even more. You've got one chance on this rock, so quit bitching and go do what it is that you can do that's going to be productive society.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then I've got no use for you.
Yeah.
So the despicable part, I'm sorry, that was kind of like a long
tirade
to get back into.
Completely fine.
That was just, watching these people that just were destroying everything in these communities, and people that have worked hard to make these communities what they are. It's not, a town isn't a town just because people say it is.
Yeah.
A town or a city and a society is what it is because people have worked hard to get it that way.
To build it, yeah.
Yeah, it's built over time, and it's built over. It's a destination maybe or something. There's a reason why that it is what it is, and to just destroy it just because you're mad about something instead of trying to work through it and how can we get past this, and how can we work towards a better end goal. That's despicable. It's just
let's get back to what we were saying earlier when you first brought that up, how it can it can divide people and not generate support for that movement, because then sadly the ordinary people within those communities can be caught up in the crossfire, their businesses etc. destroyed, and that's doing nothing good whatsoever. And you're definitely right. If we can get to a point where it's just look, we're human. This is just a dude, it's a a woman, because I'm going to go ultra nerdy here. But if you put on the sci-fi angle, people are thinking, man, this guy's such a nerd. But if you think, I don't know, if we ever encountered, an alien civilization or something, they would look at us just as human beings. They're different, I would imagine, a different species to them. And if we're all divided and say they're hostile, then that doesn't bode too well for us whatsoever. The chances are they would be pretty advanced. And if they are more advanced than us, which could be likely, history shows, sadly, what happens when it's a more advanced civilization. And if we're all still in coffee shops arguing with each other over because someone doesn't like the same movie or whatever it is, it's not a good example. We've got to look. As you were saying, things that have happened in the past, yes, there's so much horrible, horrendous history that's being committed by many cultures against others. Right. But the best thing we can do, in my opinion, is, as you were saying, is stop looking at each other as different, move forward together and do better. Say, right, how are we going to then not do those mistakes that we did in the past and move together forward and look at a person's character? It's one of the reasons why I relaunched the channel as Fed Up. I'm always fed up about something. It's got that comedy element. People can come on here. We don't have to agree. That doesn't matter. And they can express themselves about their art, what they're doing, and say their opinions without someone like, get off the channel. You've said something I don't agree with, whatever. So I'm trying to get back to a positive way of doing things. So with just coming back to the song Effing Feet, actually, this is my nerdy ears. Was the intro and outro, was that Sting by any chance from the Police?
Oh yeah, Police.
Yeah, I wondered that. I wondered. My ears. It's pretty cool, man.
we were kind of like, that's kind of funny. It was like an overly, like, stupidly funny. We had a whole lot of different stupid funny things that we were trying to do in the studio. Some of them didn't work out. Some of them, like that, I thought was okay. We weren't trying to go overly, silly with it, but I think it's needed in some spots just to break up the overall hatred surge, and make it a little bit funny.
Yeah, just give that for it. Yeah,
and it was kind of perfect. It was like, because in the whole COVID thing, it was, you had to stay 6 feet from me, man. You don't get 5 feet, because if you do, you're gonna kill me or something, and then I'm gonna have to kill you, and then it's it was just ridiculous. I mean, we couldn't do anything, right? Nobody knew what was going on. Everything changed every day. So it was like, we were I don't even remember how that came about, but we were just like, that would be kind of funny, because he's literally saying it, don't stand so close to me.
Yeah, it's for sure. Coming up then to Ministers of Hate, I noticed it's got like that sweaty metal bullet belt part at the start. So there's kind of, it's got that feels, and I'm guessing with the title that this could be about those that spread hate in opposite to what they should be doing. And I thought this could be applied to a number of things, from politics, the obvious one, with religion as well. It's like, can be open to interpretation. So am I on the money here, or am I totally off?
Yeah, Jimmy wrote that one, so he would be better to speak to that one. That's the one that starts out with the power metal scream, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So that all started as a joke, because I found out Jimmy could do a power metal scream.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, you're doing that. So Jimmy was like, no, dude, no. And I was like, no, you're doing it. So I wrote that little, like, that just kind of goofy power metal intro, just the just because it was kind of silly and stupid, and that made him do that scream over it. And then and then we just blast into the grind style. But yeah, he wrote that one. But yeah, basically what you're saying is that, that whole kind of vibe. It was just a couple of mix of different things, though, as far as like trying to make it funny in the beginning, and he shouldn't have let me know. He's a huge Queensryche fan, so so he was doing that one day and just kind of did it over the phone. I was like, oh, buddy, now you're gonna have to do that on the album. He's like, no.
Their classic first album. I mean, if you look at some things that have been happening, it's like, man, look back now. Food for thought there for sure.
Yeah.
Well, next one, 9 seconds, which is actually a 33-second song, just for folks out there might be thinking, oh, it's longer than 9 seconds, damn it, I'm mad.
Yep.
So is this just it's very blistering. Was this just another just straight out blister attack?
So that one was going back to the whole thing with George Floyd, unfortunately, because apparently it was like a 9-second thing, and it's talking about how we can't take that back. We can't take those 9 seconds back. He's gone. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to move forward with it in a more positive manner than what we're currently doing? Nobody's going to sit here and tell you what this officer did was the right thing, right? So we're all in agreement with that. So let's figure out how to move forward with it. And it's basically, it's just a real quick. Yeah, I don't think the thought was ever to make it a 9-second long song, but it's just, that's the underlying tone of it, is that 9 seconds that he died or whatever it was. That's what they were saying at one point when we came up with that idea.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, let's just hope we can get to a point worldwide where we certainly can be doing better than we have been. That's for sure. Coming up, the next one, which is the title track, Born from Plague. And this is an interesting one, because I could hear a lot of elements in this song. It made me think of Cut Up, Vomitory. Well, it went back to being called Vomitory. Mixed with some beatdown hardcore, even slam and good hardcore in general, and then fused with grind and death. So there's a lot in this song to unpack, but I found it a very enjoyable listen. Another one which was one of my favorites from the album.
Thank you. I think that was one of the first ones that we wrote, or that
Right.
I mean, I wrote as the guitar stuff, and then the lyrics I wrote that one as well. But it's just talking about the whole, the virus thing, just the whole thing of it, and kind of coming out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty. Yeah, coming out of that horror and then yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So this the next one, Filled with Hate. I'm guessing that has some familiar kind of themes what we've been talked about those who are filled with hate and
Yep.
sadly having a detrimental effect on everybody.
Yep. Yeah, just more of the same. I mean, we're trying to keep
Yeah.
it 100% hate filled.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, well, there's no shortage for inspiration for material for sure. Is
No,
there? It's like
no.
you're stuck for writing an album. It's like, yeah, right. I'll just look outside. Okay, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there was a lot going on at that time frame, man. There was just
Yeah.
every single day it was something new, and I was like, I would literally on my 20-minute drive into work, I would probably have one or two sets of lyrics written in my head, and I would stop when I got to work and I'd just type them out on my phone, and so I'd have them. And I mean, that's just how it went every single day. It's like, Jesus, there's just one more thing to write about. It was crazy. And for me, I mean, this is kind of a departure of what I'm used to writing about. I'm from the gore scene. My old band Deaden, I mean, we were strictly gore. Then Leviticity, the kind of porn gore, funny, whatever.
Yeah.
So it was a whole kind of different leap for me. It was like, well, like I said, we're going to write it for ourselves first, and then if people like it, cool. But this is I'm not used to being open and vulnerable about my personal feelings in music.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an interesting step. But for me, it literally just kept pouring out of me and pouring out of me and pouring out of me that I couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
I was writing, I mean, there was one day I think I wrote 7 songs.
Wow.
Just in one day. But I mean, it's easy to do when you're writing them short, but it still was just pouring out of me. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. It's like it's a whole, as you were saying, it's a whole opposite side. I've always wondered with bands like Leviticity when, I remember once I think I was watching one of the shows that did it, Obscene Extreme.
Yeah.
And I was like, sometimes I've always wondered, how do you keep a straight face when you read some of those song titles? Because I'd just start laughing. I'd be terrible. I'd probably all the bandmates, all the rest of the band would want to kick me out because I'd just be laughing all the time. And that's always saying when people, get the wrong idea about those genres. I say, look, it's just really, really over the top humor. It's a bit of fun with real heavy music. That's literally all it is. It's like when I was talking to the guys from Necrotic Disgorgement and the song I was telling you about, we were laughing when we were going through the track titles. And the crazy thing is, I think it was John who told me that he found some of these stories like the like masturbated to death that actually happened. I think it was a dude in London who did that to himself, and you're like, that's the crazy thing. We were sat laughing, but this had actually happened.
Yeah,
like madness.
Yeah, we had a song. My old band Dead, and we had a song on the last album that we did. For the life of me, I can't think of what it was, but there was we were playing a show in St. Louis in the '90s, and we were reading a local newspaper, and it was talking about how this guy got caught. He would go inside porta potties and he would videotape women going to the bathroom. They're literally pissing and shitting on him. And he got caught because one of them saw the little red light on his camera.
Yeah.
And that's how we got caught. But he's in this basin of sewage. And it was like, what are you talking about? And I mean, so it was like, yeah, well, that's going to be a song because that's just ridiculous. I mean, yeah, it's like, there's no shortage of weird stuff that goes on that you can write about, man.
We actually have a case on the news here at the moment. This dude, a necrophiliac, and I think he's other 100 corpses or something. And that's on the news at the moment. This guy, I think he's about to go to trial, or has just been to trial, possibly. I'm sorry, I've got the details wrong, folks. I was literally hearing it, so it was just passing. But you're like, I know, like with the horror in metal and the horror themes, and yeah, and it's all like over exaggerated, but then when you hear about these things like in the real world, and there's some like these really creepy, weird cats where like this has actually happened, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, it's just anyway,
It's like,
moving, yeah.
yeah, I know I'm screwed up for some of the lyrics I've written, but you're actually going out and doing stuff. So that's
Yeah, it's like looking in thinking, yep, thought I had issues, and then like you know,
no, I'm just fine.
yeah, yeah. Coming on to the next one, we're getting into the the last few tracks now. Participation Trophy. Now this really does have that classic grind and assault feel. If you want to pick a song from the album that really has that classic grindcore feel, this is one that has it for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I would probably agree with that. So that one's just about what we were talking about earlier. Everybody just
Yeah,
has their hands out because they want everything for free and they don't want to work for it.
yeah,
And that's basically, it's like quit sitting on your ass and
yeah,
expecting everything, and get up and go do something, and
yeah,
make life yours. That's all it is. It's a pep talk. This album is full of hate, but there's also pep talks. Get up
yeah,
there
yeah.
and go be a better person.
Yeah, there's things to think about. Like we were saying, it's done in that humorous, but there's a smart way as well. And it's giving people food for thought for sure. So, just before I talk about the next couple of songs, I'm wondering, uh, what have people said to you from the gore scene? Then to this music, have they liked it? Have they got behind the
um,
themes as well?
so we've only played it for a few people. I mean, this was
Yeah,
recorded. We recorded this about 2 years ago in the midst of the whole Corona stuff, and it took some time for us to get it completed because, like I said, we had all the music written. So I literally went in and did all the guitar and bass to a click track. We didn't have a drummer yet necessarily.
mm,
Um, and then we got Kyle who was playing with Gorgasm at that point, or he just stopped with Gorgasm. But I've known Kyle for a long time, and Jimmy's known Kyle for a long time. So and he's kind of in between us in Indiana. So it was like, hey man, would you be interested in doing this? And it was literally he'd heard the songs, but he didn't really know them, like by heart. So he just went in and did them. Everything is kind of just on the spot. So it was kind of, well, it was a departure from what I'm used to doing, right? But
yeah,
we played it for everybody that we've played it for has really enjoyed it, and
nice.
which has been kind of refreshing. I mean, it's because you're kind of like, here, check this out, right?
Yeah,
It took us a while to figure out who was going to release it. I talked to Carol from Self Made God, and I've known him for a long time. And he was, I think, the minute he heard it, he was like, "Yes, let's do this." So,
yeah,
um, which I was really appreciative. And then it kind of got delayed. We were trying to get the layouts done and stuff. So it's been done for a long time. So, but I haven't had like a hard copy that I could just go play for people. I've had like little snippets on my phone or whatever. So I'll play something for people here and there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's really good." And then 2 years later, it's finally going to be out.
yeah. Yeah, but it'd be really interesting to hear what the response will be like from people when it gets out there on December the 1st, because I think
Yeah.
this not only can touch into the extreme metal community, but the punk hardcore community as well. Because it's funny with grindcore, because you get like, I know there's all the subgenres of it, but you get like those two principal styles, the more death metal kind of style, and then the punk hardcore style of grind as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel this is, like I've been saying with mentioning these different layers in the tracks, this I feel is taking the best parts from both those scenes, and there's other elements, of course, there's been discussing and putting them together. So be very interesting to see what people say from the two scenes. I think it will reach them. It's got that rawness for sure, and I think people will like it. I hope so. If they don't like raw
Yeah,
music, well,
I agree. Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it's one of those things. We'll see.
yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be for everybody, but hopefully it'll be for some. And at the end of the day, we did the best we could with what we had to work with, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a huge grindcore fan, so maybe I'm biased to a point, but It hit all the right buttons for me for sure, which is perfect segue into instant expertise, because that has that blend of death and grind nicely. It's the epitome of it. There's a nice partnership there, and it's quite an insane all-out MOSH assault. So what's behind the title with that one, instant expertise? Or again, is that just that more of people thinking they're instant expert on things without
That's
them?
exactly. They don't know anything, but they're these keyboard warriors that are going to sit in some, on Facebook or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they're going to give you their opinion, and they know shit about it.
Yeah.
It's, you pick a topic, and I don't know everything about everything either. So, but I'm smart enough to not sit there and vomit out my opinion of something if I don't really know what I'm talking about. But it's these people that, behind closed doors and in their comfort of their parents' basement, because that's where they're probably living. They're gonna spit out whatever bullshit knowledge that they think that they have, and they don't have any at all.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna say it to you in person, but
Oh, no.
over the comforts of their, being 1,000 miles away or whatever it is, they're gonna let you have it, and it's just like it gets old.
Yeah, it does. It's like that trend. You've probably seen some of these videos, but with people thinking they can challenge pro fighters and beat them,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I thought you've got to be kidding. I mean, even me as someone who trains, know that nowhere near that level, and that is just absolute stupidity.
Yeah.
And you're looking at me just thinking, oh, you moron. And to be fair, the majority of them show restraint. And then some of these people can be too dumb for their own good sometimes, where they keep going, they keep on. And I'm like, are you crazy? It's like, you're retired now as well, so I can beat you. I'm like, that doesn't mean this guy still isn't capable, that he isn't capable of handling himself. You're going to go and challenge like a former MMA fighter, pro boxer, I'm a wrestler, whatever. I'm like, absolute madness. There was one, I think this was, it was an elderly gentleman, and he'd been a pro boxer. He was either from the States or the UK, I forget which. And someone had been doing what he was saying, talking a lot of, went down. So this guy said, all right, then come down, the boxing club where I still teach. And this guy was, probably in his 70s or 80s or something. And this dude's there thinking, I'm going to do this old cat, sparked him out straight away. I'm like, he's boxed all his life. This isn't the typical. He's still going to know where to hit and how to hit.
Yeah, it's not even second nature anymore. It's first nature. He's been doing it his entire life. It's like you have to respect things, but that goes also back into what we're talking about with people just want everything. They think that they can just. And you were saying, you go to the gym and train twice, and now you think that you're going to be whatever. You think you're going to be Dorian Yates. No, you're not. That's like. I used to be huge into bodybuilding, and I used to train real hardcore, 15, 20 years ago. And people would ask me, oh, how do I do this? I'm like, well, it's a lot of work, and it's 65% of what you're eating. So it's not going to be, you can go to the gym 5 times a day if you want to, but if you're not putting in what you need to do to grow into your body, then you're wasting your time. But nobody wants to listen to that part. They just want to. They're like, wait, so you're eating 6 to 7 meals a day and you're taking in 6,000 calories a day? Yes. Well, I don't think I can do that. Well, then this probably isn't for you.
And you're right. And I forget that, okay, you don't have to be a bodybuilder. You can still build like strength, functional strength. It's still going to be a benefit to you. You're going to be fit and healthy and in better shape. So it's still not a loss. And it's like you're saying, they all want to be like Incredible Hulk without having the diet part to it. That's just as important, eating the right foods, healthy and rest as well, which seems lost on some cats. Next track, and this is the one that I really have had to sit here behaving myself about. Are you offended? Personal faith, because, oh man, is this something we can all relate to? Did you think this could be an anthem for the outrage mob? Just
that'll be over the next set of riots. It'll be playing in the background, and people have signs.
Yeah,
man. I mean, it just sums it up. I mean, it's kind of perfect because it's towards the end of the album, right? So it's like, it kind of sums it. I don't even think we did that on purpose. It's just like, here it is. Are you offended? Because we hope we push some of your buttons. I mean,
Yeah.
and at this point, if we can spark some sort of thought into you, then cool. I'm not one of those people that overly thinks that my opinion matters in anything, but
Yeah.
it's my music. I get to say what I want, right? And I'm not gonna like go to a show. We're not gonna like play a show or something and be spouting off stupid stuff in between the songs. We're just gonna play the songs, right? It's not gonna be you're gonna pay to come see us, whatever $10 it is or whatever, and then you're gonna listen to me play 20 minutes worth of songs, but 30 minutes worth of ranting about what I think about politics and all this other bullshit. No, that
Being
stuff's in the
lectured. Yeah.
songs, so you're not gonna hear that outside of the songs. So, you know, hopefully you're offended, but not too bad to where it won't turn you off from a little bit of thought. Right?
Yeah. And the thing is as well, yeah, we've got to be real about some of these things, because there can be movies, music where people can have different opinions to us. And I think that shouldn't be a reason why I'm not going to listen to that band anymore.
Right.
And I'm not saying this, I mean, there is, of course, there's some horrible people out there who are generally preaching hate and violence towards people of different colours and women, and I have no time for that. Of course not. I'm not saying that for a minute, but just because somebody maybe has different view on politics, I know has faith, no faith, likes different sport, whatever. We could be here all day. It's like, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to them anymore. I feel like at times, like, and I've said this on so many shows, when I was getting into death metal as well, I went through the elitist phase where, nothing that isn't death metal isn't real and all this stuff. And then, of course, you learn, right, I'm being an idiot because there's nothing wrong with liking other music and et cetera, et cetera. But now, as we've been saying, with how some aspects of society are behaving, like we've been saying, you're like, man, that just makes it look like a walk in a park. I thought I was being an asshat.
Well, I mean, so to piggyback off what you just said, you're saying that you're able to hear all these different blends of styles, in these songs, right? And if I was straight death metal, if I was straight grindcore or whatever, I wouldn't be able to do that, because I wouldn't be able to pull from these years of this musical bank of what I've got in my mind and what I've been listening to my whole life. I mean, I listen to tons of things outside of metal too, and that's what I've always been able to appreciate is, hopefully I'm going to write something that's going to be different sounding than what other people are writing, because my category of stuff to draw from is going to be a little bit more, hopefully, well balanced and rounded out. But I mean, you're saying it right there. This doesn't sound like one exact thing, and this song's got all these blends of these 4 different styles. Well, I appreciate that, because that's exactly what, that's what I should be doing as a hopefully somewhat well-rounded musician that is trying to write something that's, I mean, it's outside of my norm, right? So it's not typically what I'm doing. So I don't want it to sound like the other things that I'm doing as well. It's a whole nother project. It's a whole nother feel. So that's a huge thing for me. That's what I'm going for. That's what I want it to be.
Yeah, and people forget that there's a very famous quote, and I think I mentioned this in some of the early episodes, and it was about I read in this novel, and it was about like how people, when they're writing movies or stories for books and things, and it was this quote that was saying, it was something like words to this effect of, look outside that particular scene or genre in it, when you'll find some of the best inspiration, and it'll be something unique. So then you're not just sounding like something you've done before or that band. And that, for me, what makes it enjoyable, because you've got those different elements, rather than it just be, hey, we're going to just do straight up what I'm used to doing. And that must be interesting and a nice change for you as a musician as well, where you're getting to play something a bit different, not always what you're used to. So that keeps it fresh. And I mean, you must draw ideas and inspirations from absolutely everywhere, and non-metal, whatever. And you've got to come up with some fresh takes and ideas, or otherwise there's no growth. It just becomes kind of that same.
It doesn't do any good for me to have 4 or 5 projects and they all sound the same, because what's the point? I should have just called them all that one band. And I was smart enough to know that if I was writing at a time. Like, well, this doesn't work for Lividity.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound like a Lividity song, or this doesn't work for. Yeah, I had a band called Colossus. This doesn't work for that. So it's good that I can say, well, yeah, we'll shove this aside and see where this goes. I've got a whole nother project written that it's the same thing. It just hasn't seen the light of day yet, but it's pretty much done. Um, I might get to it, I might not. I don't know, but it's sitting
Interesting.
there. Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
it's completely different than anything else. I mean, it's not
Oh
going to be
wow.
like it's not going to be. I mean, if I had to, not to delve off, but this would be more like 80s Slayer meets Frisian, like
Ooh, nice.
so just like straight up war metal, and it's something that I've
Yeah.
been working on for a long time, but it's just I don't know if it's ever going to see the light of day just because I'm so
Yeah.
busy right now.
Yeah.
But everything just it doesn't do any good for me because I'm not evolving as a musician if I'm
Yeah.
not creating and growing, right? And that's that's where bands like Slayer they kind of got stuck in what they did. They never really evolved much after Divine Intervention, probably,
Yeah.
right? Um, but and that's fine if that's what they wanted to do. But you have to keep on growing,
Yeah.
and you have to be smart enough to say, well, I can do other projects, and it doesn't have to sound like my current project, or
Yeah.
and I'm aware that this doesn't sound like my current project, so maybe we don't blaspheme on that to all the people that are really appreciative of what we're doing over here, and I can save this for something down the road, and we can make a whole nother thing, and hopefully people will like that.
Yeah, it keeps it interesting. I'm curious already, and be eager to talk to you about that for sure. For example, there is I'm going to put this delicately. I'll just say there's a well-known HM2 guy musician who has about 900 million old school HM2 death bands. And to be honest, it's got so ridiculous, in my opinion, where now all of those bands are starting to sound the same, like the same principal one.
Yeah,
And I'm like, dude, just stick to your main band because everything else is just sounding the same. And this has got
yeah,
ridiculous now. It, what was it? There must be, as I said, 900 odd million of these bands, and it's like a new band every week, but it's just the same. It's
right,
absolutely the same. You think I may as well just listen to the original band where they
right,
come from. Now you mentioned Slayer there. There's one of my favorite legacy bands, All Out War, who were they take like the Slayer thrash with New York hardcore they beat down. Man, fantastic. And there used to be a band here called Stamping Ground. I think they had Ian
yeah,
Glasper. It
yeah,
was like, and they were like thrashy infused kind of metallic hardcore, and they were a fantastic band as well. So there is, there's good examples there, like you've said, of where you can take a part of that music and put a different spin on it, fuse it with something else where it does work. So then it's not always sounding the same, or
yeah.
So coming to the last truth, tongue tied now, the
Yeah.
last two tracks. Probably because I'm trying to pronounce this one. Vaginistic culture. I wondered with this one, is this about like the misandrists? Like I said, gender equality. Yeah, that is absolutely
Nope,
fantastic. Oh, totally wrong then.
nope, nope.
So
It is. I don't think vaginistic is a word. I think I made it up. It's basically it's another way of saying we're a pussy culture. And sorry.
all right, well, thank
it, it's
save. I
it's
saved them on it.
so it's basically it's just another way of calling people vaginas. You're everybody's so soft and everybody is so everything hurts. Your words
Mm,
hurt, and just grow up. If you
yeah,
don't like what's happening over here, go over here, and
yeah,
you don't have to. That's one of the biggest things now. I mean, I don't care what you're into. I don't care if you want to cut your penis off and make it a vagina on your forehead, and then call yourself a whatever. You do whatever you want to do. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. It's your life. Like I said, you've got your one shot on this rock. I've got mine. I don't have to listen to your bullshit. You don't have to listen to mine. You don't have to like what I say. I don't have to like what you say. But the problem is we want to call people out because they said this 15 years ago, so we're going to cancel them and just move on with your life. Who cares? Why are we going to ruin somebody's life or ruin somebody's relationships with whatever over stupid stuff? Just so what? Who cares? Just go on. Quit being a vagina and just go on. That's you once again you thought way too hard into it. It's not
I did. It's that's one of the problems of being such a nerd as well, because I love doing like deep dives into the songs, creative process, everything like that. And I get my imagination just starts going crazy and crazy. And it's really hard to switch off when you've got a mind like that. And it's very visual. I see everything like a movie, jokes, everything. And it can be a real problem sometimes relaxing, especially if it's late at night in bed. And I've said this on pretty much every episode going, and then I'm seeing like the movie in my head and I'm like, switch off now, switch off. It's terrible. Or if I've watched a movie, for example, it'll replay in my mind, or it'll be a particular scene, or if it's like, an action movie or something, that'll play, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like the way they put this together and did that. So yeah.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, I'm getting the sense of it. Agree to disagree when necessary. If we can't do that, then just move on and look at, everybody's made mistakes, the wrong things. Look at the character of the person, who they are now, and move forward together.
And just don't be so soft. Just don't be so. I mean, just we have just, from where we were 20, 30 years ago as a society, we have just gone. I mean, in the 80s, man, there was no, the gloves were off on everything. I mean, you couldn't do anything without somebody saying something. You had to have thick skin. You had to grow up and be whatever. And maybe we were all bullied, and maybe we were all bullies. I don't know, but we were all doing just fine.
Yeah.
And it's just grow up. It's okay. Just
definitely. I think we need to find a balance for sure, because of course there's better ways of doing things, but going about doing those better things in the wrong way isn't the way to do it. I mean, it's a 50 seconds long, perfect kind of way to close out the album before we get to the next one. It's got that real rawness, direct approach. I can imagine like vaginistic culture, then you're into it.
Yep.
It's great. The next one, get a sip of water before I try and pronounce this as well. You wouldn't think, dude, I'm learning a couple of languages as well, and I can't even speak English sometimes. That's a worrying thing. Here we go. This makes me think of like a game as well. A video game makes me think of shooting aliens and stuff. Corona Alienus, I think. I think I've just probably butchered your entire title.
So once again, you're just overthinking it. It's just take coronavirus and drop the V in your coronavirus. It's just a play on words.
Coronavirus. Yeah. Me saying aliens when there isn't.
So it's literally just. It was just the constant. What did Corona turn out to be, really? More than just the flu, right? It was just a strain of the flu. I had it twice, probably, maybe 3 times at this point. I had really bad headaches, severe body aches. But I mean, we were the first, dude. I tell you what, so when Corona hit over here, me and a buddy were coming back from. Coincidentally, I leave Saturday for a big hunting trip that I go to every year in Texas, right? And my buddy and I were coming back from that same trip 3-4 years ago, whenever that happened. And it was just this weird feeling because when we left, everything was fine. Yeah. 5 days later, when we come back, we're listening to stuff, and we stopped into a grocery store, and literally people are panicking and going crazy. And we're like, what the fuck is going on? So it was completely weird, because you literally had, you had lines of people buying stuff, and there was every dynamic. It was the guy that was just going in and he's like, I need new shoes. It was at a Walmart, so he's like, I need new tennis shoes, and so he's getting tennis shoes. But the guy behind him has got every bag of flour he can put in a grocery cart, and every can of peas and corn, because he's going to hoard all that. And people were over here. People were taking toilet paper like crazy. I mean, it was insane. So we get back, and it's just like, is it literally about to be the end of the world? I mean, I'm one of those kind of people. I'm slightly prepared for that if that is the case. So okay, bring it on, whatever. But the way everything just kept morphing and changing and doing all this stuff was just crazy. It was just like lie after lie is what it felt like, and it was like everything is different every single day. There's something new and different and whatever. It was just ridiculous. So it was just literally a play on words, and instead of coronavirus, it's just coronavirus, and it's just about all the bullshit lies and all the fear mongering, and I mean, it was an insane time. I mean,
this is the thing. I do disagree in the sense, in the early part, it was more than the case of flu, because I lost my dad to corona.
And I'm sorry for that. I think so. I get that. Yeah. But was there an underlying thing with your dad, or was it?
Well, what I think as well, you see, this was in the early days when they didn't have the vaccines. Right. Now, if my dad had the vaccine, he would be here, I was told. And yeah, there was other issues with my dad as well, which didn't help him.
Right.
Now he's still, the crazy thing is, he had a hip operation as well, pulled through that, and there was a huge scandal here. They were releasing infected corona patients into not only care homes, but where they send people for like respite care if they've been an alcoholic or drug addict. Well, my dad was like in one of those kind of places, because he was a recovering alcoholic, you see, and that's what didn't help. But I do agree, regardless on the way that they reported and amped up the mass hysteria, caused people to panic, which didn't help. And I often used to say, like, look, I've seen this firsthand, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer at all. I'm really not. And but the way it was being reported, instead of trying to calm people, I know it was absolutely horrible and everything. I get that, but I felt if it had been done in a bit more of a less hysterical manner, that wouldn't have led to the mass hysteria, the panic. Like you said, people with shopping carts full of toilet paper. I'm like, why are you buying all the toilet paper? I'll leave that for someone else. I'm like, dude, what's happening? And of course, and then you were, like we've been saying throughout the whole show today, you were having kind of like the extremes on both sides. And I'm like, I know full well about this. I've seen this personally with my own father. And come on. And they just, it was a horrendous, crazy period all round. Effects on mental health as well. I've talked to so many death metal bands that have actually wrote albums based on the whole experience of COVID. Everything how it handled, that was madness. Thankfully, yes, it did get to the stage where it was like bad flu, got at the moment, bad cold, etc. And we got the vaccines, which has really helped people. But I think, we're currently being told about a new strain, I think, of swine flu here. I'm like, let's present things in, not always in like it's a Hollywood movie, like, oh, this is going to end the world straight away. I'm like, and then it's just causing panic, and then that can lead to queues at gas stations. That was the other thing I was having as well, was all the queues at the gas stations, and they were running out of gas. And I'm like, come on, folks. It's just, but it's,
why are you taking all the gas? You're not supposed to go anywhere.
Yeah. The worst thing as well, I think, was just that being cooped up inside, and like when you're used to working out as well, that was horrible, because everything, the effect it had in the music industry, but the fitness industry as well. It was, it was horrible, man. But it's certainly a rager to close the album. 20 tracks of full on in your face. Perfect close, man. So I know it's due for release on December the 1st on Self-Made God Records. I just wondered, do you have any accompanying videos planned, to go with the album? Any more merch as well, hoodies, shirts?
So we're not one of those bands that's going to go out and do a bunch of shows. We're not even sure if we're going to do any shows at this point. If the right opportunity comes around, we'll probably figure something out. We'll probably have to get another drummer to do that because Kyle's kind of busy doing other things. So we don't have, Jimmy and I have talked about making some shirts. I think we want to kind of see how this plays out, see how things go with Self-Made God. Like I said, I've known Carol for a long time. We'll see how things go. I think there is another song that's going to get released, maybe around the 1st. I'm not sure. I think there was another. He asked me about picking 2 songs, and I can't remember which other song I picked, but probably should have had you pick it because you got them down better than I do.
Oh, thanks, man.
So I can't say that we're going to have much. If there's a demand for it, then we'll try to do that. Yeah. The interesting thing is, in the approach that we took to write these songs, the second album was already almost complete as well.
Wow.
So we actually went in, I wrote, I think it's another 22 songs.
Oh, awesome.
And I recorded those probably about a year and a half ago. Wow. So we just got to get the drums and the vocals on them. The majority of the songs are written lyrically, but we just got to get it finished up. So the whole plan is, if this goes well and things are good with Self-Made God and he really likes how things are going, then hopefully he'll put the next one out and we can just get that knocked out here pretty quick. So, but yeah, nothing planned as far as shirts. I don't know if Self-Made God was going to do like cover shirts or not. Yeah. I think we talked about that at one point, but I've honestly been pretty busy with some other projects and some personal things going on. So I haven't really, it's one of those things this was done so long ago that I'm just glad to see it's finally getting out.
Yeah.
So I'm not focusing on these all the nuances of everything as far as everything goes. I'm hoping it's going to be one of those things that kind of takes off and people like it, and it'll just be like a kind of pleasant surprise. And then we can just hit you with another album pretty quick.
Definitely, man. Keep them coming. Keep hitting us.
So we'll just have to see. I mean, we've got a Facebook page. You can hit us up on there and ask me. And I'm the one that does all that. Yeah. So just hit me up and ask me about stuff, and I'll keep you posted.
Well, definitely, man. And I'm very hyped to hear that now as well. There's something to be said. I mean, I like, cause of like extreme music, but there's something to be said about shorter and direct in your face stuff as well, which is great stuff. When I get to the end of any episode, I always like to give guests the opportunity to shout and promote anything they want. I mean, obviously the band, but if there's anything else that you would like to shout out, or anybody, the floor is yours, man.
I mean, I'm just an old guy that tries to make projects, and if people like them, then I appreciate it. I've got so when Corona hit, there was the mindset of people like freaked out and they like shut in. When I did the absolute opposite, and I just wrote, and I tried to get Lividity, who I'm no longer a part of. I tried to get Lividity to go record and write, but they just I couldn't force them to do it. So that's one reason why we did this. I had another band come out called Colossus, so you can check that out. There's another band that I have called Between the Killings. I'm actually shamelessly plugging that right now.
I'll go for it. Yeah, they're on Comic-Con. Yeah, I know that band.
So we're getting ready to come out with our second EP. That's a whole different vibe that we tried to do with that, where we're trying to create this whole story, and the whole thing with that is you're following this one serial killer, and each EP is a different part of the story. There's going to be four EPs for the whole set. And then we're working with Carl Dahmer on the art for that.
Yeah.
And he is basically doing everything graphic novel style. So when everything is done, the goal is we're going to have a graphic novel to put out.
Oh, wow.
As well, with all the artwork and stuff. So we're trying to keep things, different. Like I said, I don't want every project I do to sound the same. Yeah. And then, there might be another project or two in me, but I just don't know. I'm coming up on retirement soon from work life, and I'm going to be moving out to the woods on an 80-acre spot with a cabin, and
very
we'll just have to
beautiful.
see what happens.
Yeah, no, very beautiful, man.
So
This, yeah, I'd love to chat with you. Was it Between the Killings that they're doing the man? That sounds fascinating. The graphic novel as well.
absolutely.
That would be dope, and maybe get some of the other guys on as well, and
Yeah.
do a deep dive into all of that. That sounds really interesting. I want to shout out everybody who's listened live today or checks out the show later. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for Vaughn for joining me and putting up with my verbal random rants and off-topicness in parts as well. But it's been great to talk to you, man. I really enjoyed the conversation.
I've really appreciated it. Once again, just don't overthink the album. If you get it and you check it out, it's not overly thought out. Like it's looking you right in the face. You just got to go with it. So nothing too crazy.
Yeah, don't make the mistake I did and start thinking of aliens on the last track either. Stuff. Don't know where that come from. It's just like whatever. So, folks, I'm going to do uncomfortable pause moment where I hit end stream, and I will be back within a very short while with Hatred Royans from Canada. So I shall see you on that episode. Shout out to Imperative PR for connecting us; it's greatly appreciated. And definitely go support Reap as well. Especially if you like rawness in your music, you won't be disappointed. So, folks, take care, and I shall see you again very shortly. And thanks again, Vaughn.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Welcome, man.